Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Third Down Pulled. We've got another amazing guest this week. He's Ronnie. He's a die-hard women's football card collector, big Arsenal fan, which I can relate to as an Arsenal fan. So I'm sure we might sway with the conversation a few about the football, especially the women's game. And obviously, he's got his own podcast called the Toploaded Podcast as well. So yeah, Ronnie, thank you for coming on and joining us today.
Yeah, like I said, thanks for having me. It's nice to be the other side of the interview table, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, well, we mentioned off stream about your podcast, and we'll get onto that. Well, let's first start with how we do with every guest, starting off in the journey of trading cards. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I think like the earliest days, like the collecting was obviously stickers, match attacks, but then about 6-7 years ago, I was in a stream, and for some reason they randomly started talking about basketball cards, and I was like, well, this is quite interesting. Then scrolling through eBay, and then for some reason come across football cards, and I think that was probably the worst decision and the best decision I've ever done, of just coming across the world, and you're like, how do I not know that this is here? Depending, like, you're in a country, it's so football mad. And then I think it just snowballed from there, learning a lot about it, basketball, NFL, MLB, then find out, oh, right, yeah, Premier League, oh, hey, Arsenal have got cards. And then I think as soon as I found Arsenal had cards, I think that was it for me. I knew, right, this is where I'm meant to be, and I'm just going to stay in this world for quite a few years, hopefully.
I think that's the same for a lot of people. Same with me. Like, I was sport mad for years, and obviously stumbled across the trading cards late on, and big basketball NFL fan and football fan. But obviously in the UK, the football scene is massive, and the NBA and the NFL is quiet. So it's funny to hear like that you started off with basketball first.
Yeah.
Uh,
I was
go on,
just,
continue.
I
Sorry.
was just saying, it's just crazy because I was looking in America and I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, for me, Lakers fan, but big fan of DeAndre Russell. So I was looking at his cards, and then I was like, oh, well, there's not much over in the UK for the basketball. And I thought it'd be bigger than what, and then you don't realize how big it was when you first look at it. And then you start reading into it and you're like, hold on, there's this multi-billion industry. And I'm like, I've never even heard of it in the sports world. And you're just like, how haven't I heard of it, kind of thing as well.
Yeah. So how long have you been collecting for now?
It'll be it's about 7 years now, I think. Wow.
It's just saying it out loud.
Yeah, I can't believe that time's gone already.
Did you get into it and just start picking up a few cards, or did you go straight into it and start adding to your collection? Were there any like roads that you focused on, or were you just, because it was so new, you just started picking up everything?
Yeah, I think at the first time you just really, like, you say, oh, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that. So I was picking up a few. I was like, I'm just going to collect DeAndre Russell, and then you end up picking up a load of different NBA players, some like rookies, some legends, and then especially going into it like in an NFL as well, I was picking up New York Giants players, and then you kind of realize quite quickly, oh, wait a minute, I've gone from nothing to a lot of cards here. I should probably do a bit more research into what I'm trying to get into, but I think you're just so blindsided at first that you're like, I just want everything.
I think that's one thing I'm trying to figure out. Say, I've been into cards for about 2 years, but not knowing anything about them. I've just been picking up cards. So I didn't even know what inserts, didn't know what parallels were. They were just coming through. And I'm trying to like find what niches I'm going to collect, because I've just got at home, I've just got loads of cards of just random stuff. And I don't know if you've got any tips, or do you just go with it until you know what you want to collect?
Yeah, I think it kind of, you get like a realization moment of like, sometimes for me, I was collecting loads of different things. Then I kind of was just sitting there thinking like, do I want to kind of keep branching out and having a load of different stuff, or try and home in or focusing on one area? And I think I got to that point, it was just like a random point. I was just going through cards and I was like, I might just focus on this area. And I think like once you start honing in a bit, you're a bit like, oh, I can kind of get rid of these 4 or 5 and then get one slightly nicer one. But then you buy that one nicer one, then you want more nicer ones. So then it can't quite contradictory at the end. You end up buying quite a few nice ones. But I think everyone gets to a point where you kind of sit back, you look and you go, do I want to keep doing this, or shall I go along this route? And for me, that was the case. I was like collecting all different bits, and I went, you know what, I'm going to focus on a pathway, which was more Arsenal at the time. And then that's just got more interesting and something more I could relate to. So that had a bit more of a fun factor, I'd say.
You mentioned about being an Arsenal fan. I'm obviously a Arsenal fan, as we mentioned earlier. How many Arsenal cards would you say you've got now? We've got a lot.
Quite a lot. It was a lot more to begin with, because I had quite a lot of men's and women's. And I decided to slowly get rid of some of the men's stuff, not all of it. So probably still got around about, I'd say probably about 50 to 100 men's Arsenal cards, some of the nicer ones. But then that slowly shifted into Arsenal women's, where I've got probably too many is probably the right answer. Probably if I actually knew the exact number, I'd probably be questioning my choices. But when the women's well, it's probably more in the 4 to 500 probably area now, with different breaks and just collecting along the way.
I've got a lot of Arsenal cards at home, and I'm finding it really hard what to give up, because you all have special connections with certain players, like more than others, but because they wear the Arsenal shirt, the amount of times I've criticised Gabriel Martinelli, but I can't give up his cards. It's just so hard as a fan, isn't it?
You get to a point where you're like, oh, I'll let this one go. And then you kind of put it in a pile to get rid of. And then you look at it and you go, you know what? I do quite like that card. And then you end up bringing it back and you're back at square one and you're just like, I can't get rid of that one. Oh, if I'm not getting rid of that one, I can't really get rid of that one. And then you might as well just started when you start off with all the cards. It's great. I've actually enjoyed doing that on quite a few occasions.
You mentioned the women's team for the Arsenal as well. Sounds like you got a good women's Arsenal collection there. Did you start watching women's football and then get into it, or did you start collecting the cards and then start going watch women's football?
Yeah, so I've been quite fortunate. I've been into women's football for quite a long time now. I've started watching it about 15, 20 years ago. So that was a whole different experience when I was already in the hobby for about 4 years. And then they went, we're bringing out women's football cards. And I knew at that point it was going to be expensive. But obviously then it was Arsenal women's. I was like, yeah, this is going to be great fun. But no, I've been going Arsenal women's on and off for about 20 years. Been going quite more regularly for about 6 years now. So it was a perfect matrimony of when they said they was bringing out the cards, I was like, that's probably going to be my new area of focus.
I feel like we need to go for a few drinks if we're ever near the car shop, because I've got so much to talk about. You in the been watching women's football for a lot longer than me, but I've been watching it for about 4 or 5 years now. Started a newsletter with a company as well, which is good fun. So I've really dived into stuff outside WSL. How have you seen, as a women's football fan, you've seen before the card boom, how have you seen the cards go for women's football? Because the popularity of the sport is just shooting up. So that must be massive for the cards as well.
Oh, massively. I remember when I was first getting into it, honestly, in the UK, I probably knew 5 people, if that, maybe more likely 3 or 4 that were buying women's cards or actively collecting them, probably even less than that. It was probably like 2 or 3 of us, especially in the Arsenal women's world. And then now we're going into it, and I probably know about 30, 40 people just in the UK alone. There's like a group of us, which are near enough 400 people now around the world who are collecting it. So it's crazy how it's gone from such a very, very small community to one that is growing on a daily basis. And with the new releases, we're seeing so many new faces into collecting. But also what's great to see is a lot more younger collectors getting into it as well on the women's side, which is, I've always said, you're never going to do that well if it's always older people getting into it. You've got to get that new blood in it. And it's been really nice getting to know some of the newer collectors as well, with their new passion they're bringing into it as well.
When you go into like places like Asda and Tesco now, you're seeing the women's products right in front, and that never used to be the case. You had the men's stuff and you had Star Wars and everything else, but it's like, as soon as I go in the shop now, I'm seeing the WSL stickers that have just come out now. It's like things have changed so much.
Yeah, I was literally on the release day of the latest WSL still. I was literally getting a bit of lunch, and then I've gone in there and I've seen a box of stickers, and it still takes me back a bit. Like, I'm like, it's crazy to see how far it's come, like, since I was young. Of, if someone would have said then, oh, there would be a women's sticker set, just women's only, you'd be like, yeah, there's no chance. But now it's so common, and you get so many different sets. But also, when they go on the shelf, they are selling out most of the time, and the demand for it is incredible, which is, I think, just shows you how much it's coming along, not just as a hobby, but women's football in general now is so much more accepted and actually very, very popular.
I've broke quite a few of the hobby boxes now for Topps Chrome, and they're like, people are just picking up them spots for fun at the moment. You look at the product now, obviously that's like seen as a top product, the Topps Chrome. Did it start with the match attacks and it's just similar to like other things, it's just grown to like being in top products because the demand's so big?
Yeah, with women's one, it's been quite it's kind of near enough gone backwards. It's quite a strange one because we've had stickers, but even then, like, men's stickers have been dating back to 1970. Well, the first ever women's proper sticker set was 2011 for the World Cup. So we're only 15 years into stickers. Then we got like cards. They've been in card sets here and there, like Don Russ and stuff like that. But Then the first actual women's set was 2021. So, and then we got the first Adrenaline, I think, in 2024, which is like your Match Attax equivalent. So it's still so fresh and so new, but we've kind of gone like backwards. We've gone stickers to expensive hobby boxes to then bringing in the more stickers and like your trading card games, which has been a very different way in, but seems to be as popular as the men's way of doing it.
It's funny to hear stories like that because obviously new to the trading cards world, I've seen the women's game grow. And starting with stickers, a lot of things starts with stickers. Like when we were younger, like we stuck in the World Cup. So to go like up and then down is it's a different way of doing it, I should say. But these, I don't know if you've seen any of the chrome ones, but the design and everything of them, they're so nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously for us being Arsenal, the season that's just come out is the Arsenal winning year as well. So it's going to be expensive. I've got a few of them sitting next to me at the moment, which I've opened in personal boxes or within breaks, and they are a big step up. If anyone knows women's cards, last year's Chrome was a quite poor release, and they've really stepped it up this year. It looks great. The parallels are even nicer. And I think that's just like a perfect storm of we've got a card set in the women's world. It's really nice, and everyone's just spending what money they've got left after Christmas on it.
Is there a reason why you think they stepped up? Was the like maybe complaints about how poor it was last year, or is it just the demand was still good even though it was seen as a poor product and they thought we were going to put some effort into this?
Yeah, I think a bit of a mixture of both. The popularity is great. However, the release last year, Sapphire was fantastic. However, Chrome was quite poor. I think it was around the £120 for a retail box at the hobby box. It was max numbering 299. The cards didn't look great. And it was kind of, there's a lot of boxes left unopened. And I think if anyone knows anything about Tops especially, they don't like box not being open. So when they're all sitting in their warehouse, there's like probably, yeah, we need to do a better job this year. And at the moment, it seems like they've done a very good job on this set. And obviously with Sapphire to come as well. But they've definitely, I think, felt the drawback of why didn't it sell that well last year? It weren't a great set. They brought the price down, gave you another numbered card. So maybe they've actually listened.
When I'm opening them as well, it's like £90 for a hobby box. It's one auto, 5 numbers. There's so many chances to hit in there. It's just a fantastic product, especially if you're a fan of the women's game. For hobby boxes in other areas, so expensive. I feel it's just a fantastic value to get into something, and you can hit big things.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you compare it to like the men's equivalent for the UCC, you're like, that one, you're looking, there's base auto. So for context, for people who might not even know, every auto I've seen so far in women's Chrome has been numbered as well, which is unheard of for the men's side of the game. And like you said, you're getting 6 hits in a box for less than £100. And worst comes to worst, like even if you hit maybe one very good, like a decent card, you're probably making at least half your money back, even if it's not a great box, which is, yet again, probably would only happen in the women's side of the actual hobby collect.
Yeah, like I mentioned, there's all the autos are numbers. Like you said, because they're so expensive to get into the men's one. So I'm always trying to find ways. I'm a guy that's not got loads of money to go splash out on cards, and finding a way in to still get hit nice cards in a box. And this came along. It's just fantastic from Tops for me.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think this is what needs to be really for the women's side of it. That it's not cheap, that not everyone can afford it. However, it's not been priced out by a lot of people. Of like, we know some of the sets when they come to the hundreds, people just can't afford it. So I've seen a lot of people who've said, "Oh, this has been my first box that I bought," because it's actually not too dissimilar to a price of a sticker box, which is quite intriguing, I find. And I think that's what brought a lot more people in. Of like, actually, you know what? I can actually open a box. And then I think, like me, like you, like anyone else who's listening, once you open that first box or you get that first card, you're hooked. And then you're looking for singles, you're buying breaks, you're buying boxes, and that's how it snowballs, and that's how it's, well, that's why we're here.
You mentioned, obviously, Arsenal fan. Mentioned you bought a few of these boxes. Have you hit anything big? And what are you chasing when it comes to Arsenal? I mean, obviously Alessia Russo's the big one for me,
Yeah.
but is there any others for you?
So for me, it would be the Williamson autograph cards. However, they are quite expensive for the moment, so I'm probably going to hold back. But I was personally going to try and collect. One of my main players is Stina Blackstenia. Sadly, she weren't in the checklist, so I wanted someone who's not had many Arsenal cards so far. So one of the main players I'm chasing this year is Emily Fox, right back from America, but also Katie McCabe. It's one of my favourite players of all time. So as soon as I see Fox and McCabe in the checklist, I was like, well, I'm definitely going after them too. And then when I see another spot in a break available, sometimes I take them, like Frida Mornham, or in my eyes, the biggest legend of all time for Arsenal, Kim Little. So that's always another one that I'm chasing. But I'm trying to get a red wave to 5 of someone at Arsenal. But one did sell for a few hundred, and now I'm thinking, right, I'm going to have to try and get lucky in one of these breaks.
I saw on your Instagram you had a nice Cooney cross. I don't know if that's a recent pull or a recent purchase, but that was a nice card that you had.
Yeah, I was very fortunate enough to pick that one up at a card show. It's one of them. It's hard to say no to a foil frat there, especially a 1 of 1 when it comes up, an autograph rookie as well. And I actually wasn't even at a show when I got that one. I literally got a phone call from a mate who was like, this has just walked up to the table. Do you want it? And I just looked at it and went, no, you're winding me up. And then I just put the phone down for a laugh. And then they actually rang me back saying, no, we're being serious. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I need that one. So that's very fortunate to be in the collection. A few people down under in Australia have messaged me about the card, but I've said, sorry, it's not leaving anytime soon. But if it does, I might have to send it down under.
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question, but obviously women's football is growing here. Is there a big demand for women's cards outside of the UK as well?
Yeah, it's a massively growing market. In our Discord that we have, which is features, it's a whole way around the world. We're getting a lot of members in Australia now, which is great, really starting to grow down there. But also mainland Europe's coming really popular. I think it helps with how big the women's game is in Europe. Quite a few people in Germany and the Netherlands are really involved, but obviously America is massive, but it is growing not just in the UK, but it seems like it's growing rapidly in Australia, Germany, the Netherlands, and even some parts of Eastern Europe as well. We're getting a lot of new members, which is great to see. And it's just it's not just the UK doing something right and England doing something right. It's actually growing everywhere. And I think we've seen that with the TV audiences on last year's Euros in Switzerland and no doubt in the World Cup in Brazil next year.
I remember when I came into the shop, I think it was like the first or second time I had a look in the third down shop, and I looked at one of the on the wall and stuff where they've got the cards. And there were quite a few women's cards in there. And it was really refreshing, to see. And I don't know, I haven't been to a show yet, so I don't know the answer. I'm hoping to get to a few this year. If you've been to a few shows, I think I'm right in saying you have. Are you seeing a lot of women's cards at these shows as well?
Yeah, it's growing massively. The first probably 4 to 5 shows I ever went to about 6-7 years ago, I could go a whole show of not even seeing a single card, and it was like a needle in a haystack. But now, when we're going to shows, there's people who are dedicated to just women's cards only. Very good friends of mine, She Scores Cards, which set up at near enough every London card show and other card shows as well. Only women's cards on their tables, and you're getting a lot more people now as well. They're like, I know all these from the Euros, and they're opening the England eternity boxes, and you are going around trying to find the cards, and there's plenty of cards. And most of my big cards I've ever purchased actually have come from card shows.
I can't remember what product it is now. You might be able to help me, but there is an England product where it isn't licensed as well, but they're still selling for decent numbers.
Yeah, so that was last year's Euro Merlin, and I'm not a fan of like the clear stuff, but then I see the card prices of some of them, and I'm seeing them go for 200-300. I'm like, imagine how much this card would be if they actually had the branding on it of the like having the badge, having the night ticket. I'm like, it's incredible the demand and how much money's in it for cards that were just unlicensed and people slaughtered when they first come out. But there's a market there, so if there's a market, you can't blame Topps for putting it out there.
You mentioned earlier you've got like the community going on with the women's collection. Is that something that people can access to get into?
Yeah, so it's called Just Women's Cards. There is an Instagram page for it, but if anyone ever wanted to join it, if they just drop me a message on Instagram, I'll ping over the link. I think it's about 380 members on Discord now. Every day people are chatting about the releases, buying, selling cards, and just it's a great community because we've got a lot of people new as well who are just asking questions. And it feels just right when you're in there. It's just a nice group of people. I've met quite a few of them now in person, whether here in America, and it's just refreshing just to have everyone who's in the same world together that probably no one knew that was actually involved as well at the same time.
No, definitely true, because I didn't know it was involved. I'd love to get involved in that. So I'll be reaching out to jump in there, because I really, like you say, the men's cards are so expensive. The women's cards, especially if you're women, I'm like obviously a fan of the women's game, and there's so many new people fans of women's game. I feel like it's a great place to build a nice collection that's affordable as well.
Oh, definitely. And that's, I think, the greatest thing about the women's hobby is you can get a very nice collection for a considerable price difference to the men's stuff, because some of the cards are very cheap and you can get autographed cards of some women's players for £5, £6 who are actually quite big names. And even like some of the higher number stuff from the England tourney stuff, which is still to 50 or less, which is still very short print in comparison to some. And you can get it for £4 or £5. I've seen some Arsenal women's collectors I know who are like, I really like Beth Mead, and got some really nice cards for £10, £15 that no doubt if that was a Bukayo Saka or Declan Rice, they'd probably be paying £80 to £100.
We mentioned some of the players that you collect. Is the any future players that, like rookies, would you say that you're looking out for in the future, or people should make notes of?
Yeah, the one player that we signed in the summer, Olivia Smith, we signed from Liverpool for, at the time, a record £1 million. I think she has the potential to go as far up in the game as she wants. But we have got a young player at Arsenal who's just come back on loan from America. Her name's Leah Herbert, England Youth International. I think she's an absolute fantastic player. She's just got cards, I believe, in the NWSL set because she was out on loan there. But I don't really want them in the Portland Thorns shirt yet. So give her the Arsenal shirt. But in terms of Arsenal, Leah Herbert looks a fantastic player. But I've got to say Katie Reid as well, our young centre-up, sadly tore her ACL at the beginning of the season. And I think, no doubt, everyone who's listening to this who did see the Euros, Michelle Adjumang as well, who's one of the top talents in the country, but yet again, sadly come to a season-ending injury, which is so prone in the women's game at the moment.
The Olivia Smith ones that menaced me, because I was looking at her Tops Now cards, because I started following cards after she'd signed, like properly from Liverpool. And I was looking at the Tops Now one, when she'd signed.
Yes.
And there's one on eBay at the moment. I think it's an out of 25, but I'm eyeing it up. But I feel like if I do that, I want the other numbered as well. But she looks a really good player.
Oh, one of the best players I've seen play for Arsenal like so quickly after signing. I thought, I see her for Liverpool against Arsenal. I thought, oh, she's a good player, but I didn't realise how good she was, and still so young as well, that she's only going to get better and better. So there's a very high ceiling for her, and she's smashed the first 6 months. And like I say, she's got a couple of Tops Now cards. Fortunately enough, I've got a very nice one in the collection, but I'm hoping Tops don't mind sending through another couple of parallels when she gets them, because them ones are not cheap at all, especially if you look in the Canada market, because they know how good she is, obviously being from Canada as well.
I think they're the type of players that we want to see in the women's game, the ones that excite us. Lauren James was that for me when I first started watching, but, people who can do something different, run at players, take people on. But Olivia Smith, again, falls in that category for me. When it comes to women's football cards, is there any people out there that maybe people should follow that can help with advice and things like that? You mentioned the community as well, but is anyone out there on Instagram or social media?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few of guys, especially that we're in Discord, that help on Instagram. Definitely, there's quite a few good ones. She Scores Cards, I'd say, is an absolute fantastic one to follow. Massive presence within the UK card show scene. She's a collector as well, is a very good friend of mine, does a lot of great content as well, which I'd recommend over on TikTok. A lot of like how to get into the hobby, a lot of like the starter sets as well, which are great because it actually shows you what they are. Because if I was just walking into a thing and see WSL, I wouldn't have a clue what they were. So they're definitely two very close friends I would recommend. But once you're in that Discord, there's a great thing in there as well. There's literally a thread which has just got everyone's Instagrams on it, and it's great fun because you can literally just go through it, clicking every single one and following them, because then you grow your following as well, and you end up just talking to people as well, which is, I end up talking to some people in the card world more than I do my actual mates, and then they wonder why I don't talk to them. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm busy talking about cards. And they go, are you talking about cardboard again? I'm like, yep, every day, thank you very much.
That's one thing I'm enjoying about the hobby, like talking to people about cards, people that I might not see and talk about other things, but like just hearing their stories and things like that. It's just a fascinating place to be in at the moment, and hopefully in the future meeting so many more people.
Yeah, I think it's so much fun as well. Once you like break that barrier of starting talking to someone and then you meet them as well in person, then you feel like you've known people for a lot longer than what you have done. And just to think it's all over cards. I've talked to some people every day for the last 4 or 5 years that I've known from cards. And it's amazing how a hobby on the side can turn into actually some really good friendships, but also just a very good escape from whatever happens, like in someone's 9 to 5 or whatever it may be going on.
You mentioned at the start that you've got your own podcast. It's weird being on someone else's podcast. Yeah, they're called the Toploaded Podcast, and it's actually sponsored by Third Down, which is cool. I can see you've been doing it for a long time. When did you actually start choosing content?
Yeah, it was one. It was like a thing of mine I was thinking of for a very long time, but it will come up to it's either 4 or 5 years now. It's crazy how time flies. We're over 170 episodes in, and it's like yourself doing a podcast. You kind of just get used to it. It's just quite fun just to talk. You meet new people, but even sometimes just to get away from stuff. And when you're podcasting, so I think it's the anniversary coming up in about 3 weeks' time, and it's either 4 or 5 years now. And like when I was collecting cards, I didn't realize how long it was. You kind of just lose track of dates and times. And I think it's for 2021 does seem, no, it can't be 2021, surely not. I'm going to say 2022 now, just because I can't see it being 5 years. So I'm going to say 2022. So I think it's been 4 years next month.
It's still incredible. Whichever year it is, it's an incredible slog, and you've been doing really well. Like I say, I started following as soon as the guys mentioned the shop that there one out there, because there's not many in the UK. Is that something why you decided to do it, or did you just want a place to talk about cards?
It was partly and parcel. I've always been a podcast fan. I've always enjoyed doing that, whether I was in the gym or walking anywhere. And I kind of was looking around and I was like, oh, there's not too many ones in the UK. There might have been like 2 or 3, if that, at the time. Obviously, there was quite a few in America, but even in America, quite a lot of them have stopped since. And it's just quite nice it's got to a point now where people every week or every 2 weeks join in for the content. And I'm like, it's just very nice to know that you're helping people just listening. People are tuning in, taking time out their day to listen to the podcast. And I think it's great fun and great to see other people getting involved as well, because I've always said, and it's been a massive thing of mine, the more the merrier in the content stream, because there's so much room in the UK for people and content that it's only just really getting explored now by a lot of people.
When you first started the podcast, you were you comfortable talking, and did you feel any nerves? When I first started, now once I get going, I get a bit confident, but I struggle. Is that the same for you, or did it take some time?
Oh, it definitely took some time. I've been on a couple of podcasts before it, but not as like hosting it as well. But I'd say probably good 10 episodes it was to you start feeling really comfortable, and then by the time you know it, it gets kind of second nature, which is so great when you get to that point, because you're like, I'm just talking. But for some reason, when you're recording the podcast, you're like, at the first, you're like stuttering a lot, and I'm like, then you get to a point where you're like, wow, it's you're just talking like if you're talking anywhere. And I think that's the approach I wanted to go with that podcast. I always used to say to everyone who come on, I was like, I don't want it to sound like an interview. It's just a chat. And that's what I think the best podcasts are, just like this one. If it's just having a chat with people, they just flow so great. And people at home or wherever they're listening, that's what they want to listen to. It's just a conversation about cardboard.
Ben sat over there and he keeps preaching it to me. It's just a conversation. But once you get on it becomes much harder at the start. But I see like how you've done and had the confidence, even just talking to you now, you can see the confidence of just speaking on the podcast. I'm hoping that comes for me as well.
It definitely will try. It does come. It's one of them, you might take 2 episodes, it might take 10 episodes, but there'll be one time that you'll press play button and you go, this is easy. This is just second nature now. And I've still not done one in person. I still haven't brought up the courage to do that at any point. So that's the next stage sometime. But online, that's easy. But if it was in person, I think some of them nerves and jitters might come back.
If you're ever up here, I'm sure we can get you on the podcast if you're around up in the north in a show. But we'd like to do that. But you've had some amazing guests on there. I was just scrolling through. I've listened to the last few, but I've scrolled through. You've had some really cool guests on. Is there one that really stands out to you?
In terms of, I think there's 2 main ones for me. One of the first guests I ever had on, which was Real Harry's World, obviously the owner of the London Card Show, which I'd never spoken to him before he got on the first episode, and now we're very good friends. So that's always up there. But Troy for me, so Trike, the YouTuber in America, I randomly reached out to him and I was like, I'd love to get you on the podcast, expecting him to just never respond. He responded, was like, yeah, I'd love to. I was like, and then he went, oh, I listened to the podcast. And I was like, well, this is a bit weird. And then just got talking. He come on the podcast, then they come over, and then it's actually led to a very good friendship. We get on very well, speak to each other all the time. So if I had to, it's hard to pick one person, but that's kind of like getting someone on from the other side of the world, literally like 8 hours difference. And it was just like crazy to have that overall experience and then see how well he's doing as well now in his own content stream, which was quite a big one for me, I'd say.
Is that your favorite episode, or have you got a different favorite episode?
I do. There's just something about the London Card Show special. I think is just it runs every 3 months now, just before the London Card Show. But I think that's got to be it's an easy answer, but that's my favorite one. I know it's the week of the London Card Show, which means I'm going to a card show. It's great fun, but I think a lot of people now as well realize that one comes out the week before the show, and a lot of people have messaged me, oh, we listen to it every time we're en route to the show. And it's quite nice to see how many people listen to that one and then say in person, like, oh, as soon as that comes out, we know it's card show time, and how many people look forward to that one. So that one always brings a smile to my face.
You mentioned obviously just sit back and enjoy it. You've been doing it for a long time. Is there any lessons that you can send over to me to help me?
I honestly think the best thing is just go with it. I think that's the one thing I wish someone told me with it, because you can overthink stuff. And I'm quite a person who overthinks a lot of things. And you're like, should I say this? Should I say that? What should I? And the best times having a conversation is when it's just natural and you just go with it. You don't try and think of, shall I say this? Shall I say that? It's good to have, especially when you're interviewing, have like, I'm going to talk about these talking points. But when someone goes, oh, I'm going to talk about this and this order, it's like, have you seen during this conversation? Sometimes it comes up earlier on and you're just like, oh, we can talk about it now. So my best thing is just to go with it. What feels natural, go with that. Because if you try and force it in a way, sometimes it just won't come out as good as what you would think.
That's a really good advice. I'm going to try and get that in check for the next few episodes. Hopefully it comes across well. We mentioned as well at the start, before we came on, you've been to the National. I haven't even been to a card show. Yeah, I really want to get to the National. It looks amazing. How many card shows had you been to before you went to the National?
It must have been, I've been about 20 or so before going out to Chicago, like 2025 for the National.
So even with 20 card shows, I'm guessing it still blew your mind over there, what it was like.
It was quite funny because on the opening day of going in there, I was stood in like the main, not even the main hall, a part of it, and I went, my God, this is absolutely massive. And my mate, who's been a couple, tapped me on the shoulder and went, right, this is not even like a quarter of it. We're in the smaller hall. I went, I said, oh, you're winding me up, mate. And then he went, go through that little door there. And I went, that's a bigger hall. And then I went through another one and it was an even bigger hall. And I was like, you kind of, that first day, you're just like, this is unbelievable. The size of the room, how many cards there are. And it's not even just like how many cards. You're going past tables that have got just loads of like Michael Jordan rookies. You go to another one, they've got a Mickey Mantle, and you're like, these are not like $30 cards I'm looking at. This guy's got about $1 million worth of cards. There's like a 20-foot safe behind him to put them all in. I'm like, it takes you back quite a bit when you actually realize the true amount of money at that one show at that one time.
I don't know if the second or third episode, we were talking to Rich on a Collectible Corner, and we mentioned the stuff that they have on the tables in America that's totally different to over here. So you've got the cards over there. They just have loads of autograph stuff. They have like stuff to do with presidents. It's just another level over there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's like, you look at the years of the stuff as well, and you go, oh, that's from 80. Oh, like that's from, there was a coin or something I see from like 1790. And I was like, and then you go to that, let's say next table was like all pop stars. And I'm like, well, that's really cool. And then it was like all presidents and then sports stars and then actors. And I'm like, where do you even start? I was like looking at it. I'm just like, it was like Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. And then after it was Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra. And I'm like, where else in the world can I see them four people in a row and it not be like weird or out of place?
So you mentioned that you've been collecting them in the hobby, been at card shows for quite a long time now, longer than a lot of people. What's different, should I say, to US to here now, obviously there's always going to be a big gap from US to UK, but do you see that it's on the progression upwards over here?
Oh, massively on the upwards. And I think especially seeing it over the past few years, how it's changed and developed. And yes, as I say to people, obviously we're always going to compare ourselves to the States, but they've been doing this for decades longer than what we have. And you see us now over here, you go to card shows, you've got quite a few people buying people out of things, which was unheard of 4 or 5 years ago. And to think realistically, the hobby's really only started booming here since COVID. So we're only really just going into our 6th year, or arguably 5th year, actually, of this mainstream hobby. And it's every year it's getting stepped up in terms of the amount of money in the UK, the amount of cards, the amount of content creators, and people in the US are saying the same thing. People in the US are taking note of the UK now and thinking, let me come over to the UK for a card show. And we must be doing something right if you're getting all of these big guys coming over and going, you know what, I get some really good cards over in the UK. And then they come over and they go, well, actually, you know what? UK is actually more expensive than I thought. They actually know what they're doing because they think we're all rookies over here. And then they come over and they go, you know what? Big play to the UK. Like, there's a very good market. And sometimes it's even a case of you see it. They come over and they go, UK has grown so much just in like that 1 year since the last time I was over.
I guess it only really kicked off just like around COVID, after COVID. And so I thought it'd been going for a number of years, like the card shows, like expanding. I didn't realize it was quite a relatively not new thing, but newish.
Yeah, it's literally. I would argue say like the real hobby here boomed in 2021 when everything started opening up after the pandemic. Is when card shows really started here, and that's when we got our first couple. So it's so fresh and so new that I barely remember it before, like the pandemic situation. I remember it and how the card prices were different, but there was no events or anything. But now every few weeks you've got card shows, and it's not like there's only 4 or 5 people. All of them are selling out as well. So it's crazy where it's gone from 5 years ago to now. So if it's even half the growth of now to 5 years time, it'd be an unbelievably busy scene come then.
Yeah, I think it was the first one of 2026, just saw some pictures on Instagram. I think it was Luton, I think, I might be wrong. And it was only a small venue, but you couldn't move in there. I think it was crazy. That's in January, where maybe people are not willing to spend as much money just after Christmas.
Yeah, that's what I think is so great about the hobby now as well. Is like I say, most industries say don't do anything in January. No one's got any money. Tops have brought out about 15 sets since January 1st, which have all sold out. Every single break I'm seeing, people are selling out. Singles are doing great. And it just shows you that people actually have that investment in the hobby, that they are putting money aside, no matter what it is, to fund their hobby, which shows you how great it must be doing. That January, which is the quietest month of all 12, is still doing fantastic.
You mentioned you've been to quite a few shows over in the UK. Is there any that you would recommend? I'm looking at going at some this year, but
I will always recommend the London Card Show. Southerners, we don't really like travelling that much, so it's quite easy to get to. But despite just being outside the UK, the one that I'd heavily recommend for anyone for a great day out is the Dublin Card Show. That was one of my favourite ones I went to last year. And the great thing for us as well, especially if you're in England or even Scotland, Wales, it's so close that your flight's getting there in less than an hour. It's normally quite a decent price as well. So if you was going to do one, I believe it's the end of February this year. That is a great day out. And personally for me, if you're a Guinness fan as well, it's even better. But the card show's great and the people over there are fantastic.
is that a weekend one or is it just a one day?
I believe it's just a one-dayer this year, but I think they're looking at growing into a 2 day. So I think it's around the 28th of February, I think, that territory, but heavily recommended, that one.
Look inside. I've never been to Ireland as well, so it's always
You'd love it. Definitely would. Definitely get out there for that. Kill two birds with one stone.
Yes.
Get to see Dublin and also go to a card shop.
Exactly. What tips would you recommend for someone that's new? Because obviously, if I'm going there, I don't want to be, because when you see so many people as well, people selling, people buying, you don't want to be overpowered. Is there any tips that you'd like to say for someone that's new to it?
Yeah, my number one tip, especially for card shows, is you don't have to buy something on the first table you see. I've done it before, and everyone will do it. Like, it's so easy that if you're going in with a budget of 50 quid or you're going in with £500, it's so easy to go, I really want that card. First table is done. It might be a gamble. Sometimes there will be a card that you can't say no to. But have a look round, spend time just looking at the tables. But I'd say the most important thing is just talk to the actual vendors as well. Build a rapport with the people selling cards, because they, in the long run, you will notice that 99 times out of 100, it'll be the same person you buy a card off more than once. And once they know you're into a certain player, a certain sport, or you're looking for a certain card, it's such a great, enjoyable thing. You get messages of people. I've heard that you collect X, and oh, I've got Y. And I would say, take your time. You don't have to just rush straight away and spend your money. Take the time, look at the floor plan, see what people are, even look at their names, go on Instagram, see what they're selling, because you might go, oh, I need to go over to them because they've got quite a high chance of having Arsenal or women's cards or cricket or whatever it may be. Do a bit of research beforehand, but just take your time and talk to people as well. I think you get the most out of everything when you just talk to people, whether it's vendors, if it's people just walking around, and then start building that rapport with people that you will see regularly at all different shows.
That's one thing that I think I've taken from every person I spoke to, where they say relationships and just take time to speak to people. Because obviously we're all collecting when people who are selling what the best deal and things like that, but it's a hobby and we all should be enjoying being part of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing of you start it by yourself, and then it slowly gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you end up knowing so many people. You do a lot of things outside of cards as well. You talk to them just about life, or you go on trips with them. Or when I've been to the National, I went with a group of 4 other people that I knew through cards, and you're like, how it all stems from just reaching out to someone on Instagram and talking to them, or you just see them a couple of times at a different couple of shows, then you go, oh, you're right, mate, and then just start talking to them. And once you open that door, it just always goes forward, whether it's in person, online, Instagram, wherever you talk, Discord. That is the best thing of building them relationships and the friendships that come with it.
It's really funny because I think some of my like best friends, like closest friends, have come from people that I haven't known from school or anything like that. We had an NFL chat, and I see a lot of them, and I speak to a lot of them just from seeing them on social media and talking about NFL.
Yeah.
It's amazing what can happen when you start talking about something people are, like 2 or 3 people are passionate about.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy to think that like something so simple as like a trading card or something like that can bring you together, but then you end up realizing you've got so much in common, and you end up literally just talking to them all the time, even subconsciously. You don't realize you're talking to them. You're like just messaging them, but then you realize, oh wait a minute, I've spoke to them every day this week, and then you realize people that you talk to, they actually do become your very good friends, and then you spend a lot of time with them, and then it makes it so much more enjoyable when you've got them people that you talk to, whether it's this show, that show, online, and you go to a show and you might not know anyone, but you definitely will leave knowing someone else that you didn't before you went.
I appreciate your time, Ronnie. I've really enjoyed the chat today. Encourage everyone to go follow you on, I'm guessing it's on Spotify and Apple, everywhere, the Toploaded Podcast. It's I've listened to quite a few episodes now when I'm working at home. I'm typing away. Have you listened on the sides? Really enjoy it. Thank you for coming on, discussing women's football cards and everything else. And we'd love to have you back on in the future.
Yeah, I'm always happy to come on. Like, thank you very much for having me. It's been nice to be this side of the mic for a change. But like I say, anyone who ever has any questions about anything in the hobby, or especially women's side of it, just drop me a message and I'll definitely get back to you. Or even if you don't want to do it through my own one, come over to the podcast. I'm always up for a chat there as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely get the your Instagram in the bottom below the podcast, and the Discord for the women's chat. We'll share that and get some more people in there, because it sounds like an amazing place to be to discuss women's cards. Yeah, thank you very much, Ronnie, for jumping on.
Been an absolute pleasure.